big news. More than 186 U.S. banks are well positioned for collapse. UBS is buying Credit Suisse in a bid to halt banking crisis. Paris police clash with demonstrators for a third night on Saturday, joined on the action. Hey everyone, I'm Anthony Marsico with Banksy, and welcome to this week's news with Banksy's podcast. Unfortunately, Alice cannot make it today as he is occupied in another meeting today, so today will just be me reading off some news to you, and hopefully it'll be very insightful so you can know what happened the previous week in the crypto world. So obviously last week was a big, crazy week with Silvergate, Signature, SVB Bank, so there's a lot of follow-up to that turnout that happened, so we will discuss that first. So first thing on our news is Silicon Valley Bank's former parent bank company files for bankruptcy. Silicon Valley Bank's former parent company, SVB Financial Group, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection Friday in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York. SVB Financial stressed that it is no longer affiliated with Silicon Valley Bank. So this is big news as the Silicon Valley Financial Group completely took away their arm in the Silicon Valley Bank, that they're not associated with them at all. And under this, basically, the FDIC has complete control over the bank right now, but the actual parent company is only going under bankruptcy to restructure their company. They'll not be liquidating any assets. They're strictly doing it to reorganize, and they will reopen their doors pretty soon. And so we'll kind of see what happens with this in the future and the outcome of this SVB turnout. Next in our news, we have the Polygon partners with Salesforce for NFT-Based loyalty program. Ryan White, president at Polygon Labs, stated that Salesforce will help their clients onboard to Polygon with its management platform to help its clients create token-based loyalty platforms. This is what he tweeted on Tuesday. In 2022, MasterCard supported Uptop. It's an NFT-based loyalty program, though a startup is an engagement program. We see a lot of businesses are kind of going in the loyalty program here, and Salesforce is going that way with the NFT loyalty program themselves. So we'll kind of see what happens with this in the next few weeks. Next on our news, we have Paris police protesters clash for a third night over Macron's pension reform. Paris police clashed with demonstrators for a third night on Saturday as thousands of people marched throughout the country amid anger at the government pushing through a rise in the state pension age without a parliamentary vote. Riot police used tear gas and clashed with some in the crowd as crash bins were set on fire. Rubbish has been piling up on the streets of Paris after refuse workers joined on the action. So we can see here in France, there's an uprising. People they don't want their pensions to be made longer until they get their state pension money back. So we'll see what happens with this in the next few weeks as well. Next on our list, we have more follow from the SVB bank collapse. More than 186 U.S. banks are well positioned for collapse after an SVB analyst reveals, quote unquote, even if only half of uninsured depositors decide to withdraw, almost 190 banks are at a potential risk of impairment to insured depositors, with potentially 300 billion of insured depositors at risk. I think we saw with SVB that clearly a bank run happened because they saw that the investors showed them a really tight, bad balance sheet, and the clients at the bank went on a bank run, took all the money out. So these analysts are kind of showing what could potentially happen with another 190 banks in the U.S. Kind of a scary situation to be in, given where we are with crazy high inflation rates, high interest rates, and the overall economy right now. So we'll see what happens with this as well. Next on our list, we have Wall Street banks lose $100 billion in 2023. The six largest U.S. banks, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs, have lost nearly $1 billion in market valuation since the year's start, according to data gathered by companiesmarket.com. The market capitalization of Bitcoin has added $194 billion in 2023. This is the old kind of, hey, where is your money better to invest? Clearly, these large banks are losing their money, but the overall market capitalization of Bitcoin has actually gone up almost 100% compared to these stocks. So obviously invest wisely, but see where you're putting your money. Don't put your eggs all in one basket. Think about crypto if you want. The next thing we have, another fallout that happened right after you had Silvergate, you had SVB, then you had Signature Bank, and now that was more US focused. Now we have more of a European focused fallout as well, which is not good. But UBS is buying Credit Suisse in a bid to halt banking crisis. Switzerland's biggest bank, UBS, has agreed to buy its ailing rival Credit Suisse in an emergency rescue deal amid stemming financial market panic unleashed by the failure of two American banks earlier this month. UBS today announced the takeover of Credit Suisse, the Swiss National Bank said in a statement Sunday. It said the rescue would secure financial stability and protect the Swiss economy. UBS is paying 3 billion Swiss francs, so this is approximately $3.25 billion for Credit Suisse, about 60% less than the bank was worth when markets closed on Friday. Credit Suisse shareholders will be largely wiped out, receiving the equivalent of just 0.76 Swiss francs in USB shares for stocks that was worth 1.86 Swiss francs on Friday. Owners of 17 billion worth of additional Tier 1 bonds, a riskier class of bank debt, will lose everything, Swiss regulators said. So as we're kind of seeing, and we saw this in 2008, 2007, when we had the global economy crisis that happened, banks around the world were collapsing, and we're seeing a little bit of that happening now, where you got some in the US and now a little bit more fallout in Europe. So hopefully nothing will go farther than it is now. Next on our list, we have Microsoft reportedly testing Edge browser Web3 wallet integration. In a March 17th Twitter thread, software documentaire and occasional info leaker Alabacor shared a series of supposed Edge user interface screenshots showing the early stages of the firm's new Web3 wallet. Not a lot to say here because these are just screenshots showing potentially what Microsoft may or may not be doing in the future, but it shows that these big names like Microsoft, Google are getting into the Web3 space. They have a lot of money, resources, they have everything. I mean, Google, Microsoft, I'm sure one of your computers right now is that they have a lot of resources to do all these things. So I'm sure they see the future. They need to integrate with Web3. And if they had that function on their browser, it would make integrating crypto much easier into buying and selling anything that is on the internet at the time. Next, we have Metaverse platform Tilia gets strategic investment from JP Morgan. The company, which has built a payment platform intended for gaming platforms, virtual world publishers, mobile application developers, and NFT providers, said Tuesday it has secured strategic investment from JP Morgan Payments and a Seoul-based operator of crypto exchange unit Upbyte. So I think maybe we all heard that JP Morgan actually is heavily invested in the metaverse. They already opened up their own store there. They clearly are one of the top 6 banks, as mentioned before, and they see something in the future where the metaverse will be useful, may or may not be. We'll see where we are in 20, 30 years from now, but clearly they're investing in other companies that are doing the same thing, as we can see here. Next, we have Bitcoin and stablecoins will bring crypto mass adoption to Africa, experts say. Many consider Africa the sleeping giant of crypto, and several speakers at last week's Blockchain Africa conference in Johannesburg, South Africa, picked Bitcoin and stablecoins as the top 2 levers of crypto mass adoption on the continent. The Central African Republic adopted Bitcoin as legal tender last year. Maruz Ridi's general manager of Africa at Central Exchange Luna said Bitcoin adoption will likely accelerate over the next decade. I think in the future, in 10 years or so, you could start seeing a situation where neighboring countries also start to declare Bitcoin as legal tender. Bitcoin could become a regional currency, or it could even become a common currency across the African Union. I think a lot of Bitcoin people out there, enthusiasts, would say Africa is a great place for this adoption to happen because there's not a lot of brick and mortar banks, and all you really need is internet access. And if we can provide internet access to the continent of Africa, then I think obviously buying and selling and between people would be much easier if they have the Bitcoin to trade between themselves and others. And last, we have the UAE announces crypto freezone. RAK Digital Assets Oasis will open for applications in the second quarter of 2023, becoming the only free zone in the world exclusively for digital and virtual asset companies that are innovating in new and emerging sectors, such as Metaverse, blockchain, utility tokens, virtual asset wallets, NFTs, DAOs, dApps, and other Web3 related businesses. If you haven't heard yet, the UAE is heavily invested in crypto and crypto businesses alike. A lot of companies that didn't know where to go, they have flocked to Dubai and the surrounding areas. It is a very rich, wealthy, heavily resourced area, and the regulators there are very open to what's going on. And it's just another example of how they are trying to pave the path for other countries to do this. So that's kind of all we have for today. Thank you for listening. We'll be here next week with Alex as well. It'll be more of a conversation rather than just a straight line info on what's happening this week. But as always, thanks for listening. Check out Banksy.com. If you're an individual or a business, we can help you out with your banking needs. And again, thanks for listening. Stay safe and see you next week.